what is my goals with this project, and that's, I guess, to kind of be as a way of focusing my ideas on top of I've noticed it's very helpful to write out or talk about my ideas, but it's not always easy to find people to read or hear those ideas. But people like videos. Overall, I want these to kind of be like little letters, like little notes for anybody, really, the world, kind of like letters to the world. I really like this idea of vlogs. It's been difficult for me to write, get this work peer reviewed, keep it edited. But with this, it's I don't have to worry about correcting my thoughts. Not in a way like, are there bad thoughts or good thoughts, and I need to monitor myself. But I mean more like, I don't have to say, make sure things are spelt right or grammar is correct, so it's easy for somebody to read. And you don't find my voice super grating. And you're curious about other people's opinions, this is what I'm going to do. This is me talking about my opinions, talking about my values. Now, I do believe that it is important for everybody to share their values, no matter even if those ideas have been spouted out before, or somebody else has the same opinions. Like, I would agree, everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got two things, opinions and assholes, which is true, but everybody needs an asshole. You need a place to defecate. I don't think opinions are necessarily defecations, but I do think I would say that people's disgust by those things, they think they treat opinions the same way, or values, and I think that's part of the problem. Is we're supposed to live in a country where it's a free market, not just a market of goods, but a market of ideas and opinions and values, and we got to see which one, is going to win the race. What ideas, what opinions, what values are the best, and I believe that much like how people react to capitalism as it's this overly bad idea, that it's just about greed. It's just a bunch of people wanting to get rich at the expense of others or our environment. And I think that's bullshit. I think most people want to be able to make something of themselves. And I would say that those ideas are the same when it comes to ideas and opinions. I think most people genuinely feel their viewpoints and their feelings to be the truth, and the reason why they're passionate isn't because they're hateful. Like, they might be hateful to some degree, but I think there's a genuine passion to try to help other people. I think people are more often or not good people, and if you believe something, right, if you believe a certain action or certain behavior or a certain idea, or maybe even a certain type of person is bad for society, most of us will all agree that murderers are bad, right? But what if you're the murderer? What if you think murdering is good? What if you think, you need to remove certain people from the livestock, the gene pool, right? You believe you are doing a good. And this gets into this idea of, like, are morals objective or subjective? And I think that's a really good, conversation to have with people. Are morals objective? Are they subjective? If they're objective, where do they come from? And me personally, I don't think morals are objective. I think they're subjective. I think Even the worst of the worst things are still objectively morally good or morally bad, depending on what they are. So, think, most people will agree with murdering is bad, but a lot of people have exceptions to that. If you believe in capital punishment, somebody being executed for committing a high-level crime, let's say like murder, and the state murders them, and this is a free state, a state where everybody is, we are the state. Each individual, the people are the government. We are the bosses. That's what a democracy is. It's led by the many. You are now tantamount to murder. You may feel that it's justified, but it is, at the end of the day, justified murder. You have killed somebody. Your tax dollars have gone to pay for the death and the ending of the life of another human being. Call it manslaughter, call it murder, call it capital punishment, whatever it is. You've still make an exception there, I think this gets into that whole thing. How can you prove morals are objective? And you have to then, if you're going to view morals as objective, that there is a provable right and a provable wrong outside of just societal pressures and conversations with other people and all that other stuff, which is the subjective thing, is that there isn't a lawgiver, sort of say, there isn't like a set of rules that come out of nature somehow or naturalistic in some way. If you believe in that, you have to, it's going to take you down this path of where, if morals are objective, if I believe that murder is wrong, maybe not in all cases, but most, unjustified murder is wrong. Let's go with that. Something has to tell me that. And I don't think people think about this way. It's like, well, where do my morals come from? But I do think they think about it. Like, a lot of people want to know what is the right thing to do. What's the wrong thing to do? How do I not get in trouble? And how do I just be happy? How do I stay alive, happy, well, able to do what I want to do? And that's the thing. I don't think people, I think that's part of the thing, though, is people want to just be happy, right? And life is like a game. Life is like a game in the way that life is like a game in the way that, there are rules. There are physical rules to which how the game is played, right? Here's the tricky part. This is the most complicated, most nuanced, most interesting, most intriguing, most powerful, highest stakes game that you will ever play in your life. That's thrilling. That's more thrilling than a roller coaster or racing down a highway, way over the speed limit or whatever really gets your adrenaline rushing, right? If you think deeply and carefully about what life is it's the highest stakes, most interesting, most powerful game that there's out there, but the rules. This is the trick, and this is what philosophers, theologians, and scientists, and politicians, and your grandma, and that small little girl across the street are all trying to do, is figure out what the fuck the rules are. And, along the way, humanity has developed tools and systems and organizations to try to figure that out and corral people. We have families, people of mostly blood relationships, occasionally close friendships that help guide you along a path as you grow up and as you get older and stuff like that, or have need for support. So that's one way. religions were started to kind of try to explain how the world worked and give it. The religions were not invented objectively. Religions weren't invented because somebody wanted to control other people. Religion, spirituality, mythology, these ideas, these stories are culminations over generations, hundreds of generations, trying to explain how the world works. And they weren't objective. They weren't necessarily used as control. And I do think people over time may have used it for those things, as like, well, this is how we can control the people. And so I think we might be able to find interesting principles, interesting ideas out of spirituality, out of these religions, out of these mythologies. But I wouldn't take them at face value. I wouldn't take any concept at face value. You got to try to understand it. For most part, especially nowadays, with access to huge banks of information, you can do it yourself. You should be informed. This is the problem with our world, is, and yet another system, politics, meant to initially be a form of control. Now the way in which we try to communicate, like here in the United States, our politics is really bands of groups of people fighting for control over different representatives to speak on their behalf, to argue with other people about what they think is right or wrong. That's what it is. That's why life is like a game. It's like a game with the rules barely known to us. We are only barely understanding even the play space through natural laws that we understand through science. And science isn't perfect, but I will put my money down on a scientific theory over a religious or spiritual explanation every day. I think that's really what it comes down to, is people want to be happy. They want to understand the world. They want to understand the rules. They don't want to be caught with their pants down, so to say. And I think if everybody can understand that, it would be wonderful. I think that's why empathy is so important. I think why, if you truly, truly want to know how the game is played, how to play the game the best, it's empathy. You want to win at the game of life, you need to start with empathy. If you can understand other people, or at least you don't even have to be a master at it, if you just want to have a leg up, you need to understand other people. You need to understand what drives them. Now this tool, empathy, can be used for good. It could be used for bad. It can just be used. Understanding people allows you to interact with people for better or for worse. For better or for worse. If you think about it, getting to know people, getting to enjoy life, getting to experience things, you don't want to do it alone. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be empathetic. And I feel like empathy drives our curiosity. The last few months I've been doing a lot of quote unquote soul searching, aka trying to understand how I came to this point in my life, how I got here, why have I made these choices, what makes me happy at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month. There's these kind of minimalistic principles, don't have too much clutter in your house kind of shit. Well, maybe, try not to have too much going on in your life. I'm really bad at that. I have a lot of going on. So I've been trying to understand and coalesce and merge different projects and hobbies and all that kind of shit to to a few things and try to not be so neurotic, not so stressed out or anxious about things, and just doing things. That's why this is important to me. But yeah, I think empathy is important. I think if we can start with empathy, we can better understand each other, even if it's a little. Even if it's, you can now understand your Uncle Bob a little better about his politics, or your nephew or niece and why they joined those rallies or whatever. See what I did there? I said that like an older person is going to be more conservative and the younger person is going to be more liberal or progressive, as they might say. Why do you think that might be? Young people are curious. They're the most curious people, and I think curiosity comes from empathy. If you don't care about people, if you only care about what's going on in your own little world, in your own little life, and not about those around you, you're not going to be truly curious about the others. You're not going to be pushed to understand why trees have leaves during certain parts of the year and don't have them during the other part of the year. Scientific curiosity is driven by empathy for other people. I get sick and tired of this idea that this notion that nerds and scientists and people of logic are only out to understand the world in this most basic world, this most basic, most math-driven, linear, unspecial way. I see a lot of religious or spiritual people look at rational skeptics, atheists, as people who don't see joy in the world, and I think that's wrong. I think the skeptics, the rational people, the atheists, they got to where they were by empathy, by curiosity. I think they got there by curiosity, through the way of empathy. And you know what? I think that's the same way the religious people do. I don't think it's so much it's easier or harder. I would disagree that religion and spirituality are the way to go about this, but I don't think that people are bad because, I don't think people are stupid because, I don't think people are wrong-headed or hateful because of the way they got there. I think sometimes, though, you need to start with empathy. You need to realize where your curiosity comes from. It's empathy. And I think understanding that empathy is important. Yeah, I think empathy is important, I guess. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to discuss empathy. I'm going to be, curious about the world. And I want to share those ideas with people. And as an artist, as somebody who wants to tell stories, especially through the video medium, the visual, auditory medium we call film or video production or television or whatever you'd like to call it, I want to tell my tale. I want to tell my understanding of the world. I want to write these letters to the world. And so that's what this is going to be. This is what my blog is going to be. Yes, everybody's got an opinion, everybody's got an idea, everybody's got values. And I don't want to be afraid anymore to share my viewpoints, my values, my ideas. We clam up too much. And I think even with people we disagree, that's really where empathy can come in, is why does that person think that way? Once you start feeling curious about things, it's really hard to stick with older ideas that might not mesh well with others. I think that I'm going to talk about atheism. I'm going to talk about what that means to me and why I want to not use that word anymore. I'm going to talk about values I do have that I've come to cherish through the scope of a secular humanist. I'm going to talk about politics, the ideas of libertarianism, and through the non-aggression principle, and through capitalism, and through the marketplace of free ideas and exchange of things. You know, not everything is perfect, and not all my ideas are going to be correct, but frankly, nobody's are. And anybody who says all of their ideas are correct is full of shit. Anybody who comes to you and says, hey, this is the way it's going to be, or this is the best way to do it, you know, and you might think I'm sounding hypocritical, like, oh, you need empathy and you need to go through curiosity, and I'm starting to sound like a motivational poster. Take my words, don't take my words. I don't give a shit. I'm not your parent, right? I'm not your dictator. I'm not your priest. Well, I could be your priest. So I have thought about being an atheist pastor. Think about that for once, for a little bit. What the hell does that even mean? I'll discuss that. I've got a lot of ideas, and I've got a lot of care in my heart, passion that drives me, and I care about people, and I want to see other people happy. And I'm tired of feeling like being selfish or having some sort of bias is bad. I don't think selfishness or biasism is bad. I think it can be. I think you can overdo it. I think you can fall into echo chambers. I want to put my ideas out there. I want to test them through the opinions of others. Maybe even put some in practice. And I'm going to talk about what I'm passionate about. From people, I think romance is a wonderful thing. Love is a beautiful thing. I'm a person who thinks that polyamory is a good thing for more people than it may have been thought of. You know, I don't think monogamy is bad, but I think that we shouldn't demonize non-monogamous relationships or relationships that don't conform to a certain standard. I also think not naturalism, but it's nudism. It's just nudism. I'm not going to use this stupid fancy word, right? It's nudism. I think nudism, social nakedness, social nudism is important. I think it'll help people be curious about the human body in a better way than just as a sexual object. But I think sex is important too. I think pornographic concepts, erotic ideas are important. I don't think these things should be sheltered away. I think people should be able to live their life as long as you're not hurting other people. And when I mean hurt other people, I mean you intentionally trying to inflict physical or emotional harm on somebody intentionally, like you're doing it on purpose. You know, I think as long as you're not intentionally trying to harm somebody, you do you, boo. As some person on somewhere said once, you do you, boo, you do you. So if you're interested in working together with other people, and you think that any form of extremism is bad, if you think authoritarianism is bad, and what I mean by authoritarianism, I think what I mean by that is somebody or some group telling you how you should live your life, what's right, what's wrong, without being able to argue against it, to break that echo chamber. Or if you might like some of the ideas I like. My mind works how this video is going to end up looking, or how you're watching it actually, so please bear with me. Yeah.